Democrats are assessing the damage after losing several key races in Tuesday's election. One of the party's biggest losses was in the state of Virginia. Businessman Glenn Youngkin narrowly defeated former Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe in the state's gubernatorial election. President Biden won Virginia by a 10-point margin in the 2020 presidential election. In addition to losing the governor's mansion, Democrats lost a hard-fought race for Virginia's lieutenant governor. Republicans also claimed the attorney general's seat along with control of the state's House of Delegates. But there were some Democratic wins. Delegate Danica Roem won a third consecutive term on Tuesday. She represents Virginia's 13th district, which includes Manassas and part of Prince William County. We spoke about her historic win on Saturday. Great to have you on the show, Delegate Roem. You are the longest-serving trans-state official in Virginia history, and this is the third consecutive election in which you've defeated a Republican who supported anti-LGBTQ+ measures. What does this latest victory mean to you personally?
Well, what this latest victory means to me personally is I get to continue doing the work that the people of the 13th district entrusted to me in the first place, like continuing to work to fix Route 28, which is we're actually finally seeing progress on, especially since all the traffic lights are now removed at the 6620 interchange. Last year, I voted as a member of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority for the construction that's now underway right now over in Centerville on the 6th laning. And we're working on my project, which calls for innovative intersection designs along a 2.1-mile stretch between Manassas Park and Yorkshire to get up to the Bull Run Bridge, along with 1.75 miles of contiguous sidewalks. So that's huge. I'll continue working to bring mass transit out to Haymarket and Gainesville beyond what we already have, which we now have the first commuter bus linking Heathcote Boulevard out to 5 metro stations a day over in Arlington. And we're going to continue working to feed hungry kids in schools. So, basically, I'm just going to continue doing the work that the people of the 13th district need from their state delegate.
Delegate Roem, as you're talking about the things of importance to your constituents, they are the things that matter to everybody's daily lives. But when we look at the campaign, wedge issues were a major part of the Republican Party's campaign strategy in this past election there. Your opponent specifically focused largely on a myriad of anti-LGBTQ+ laws. For most voters, these wedge issues may stir emotions, but they don't necessarily affect their daily lives. But as a member of the trans community, I imagine seeing these wedge issues used as a cudgel to try and divide voters, divide people into different groups has a different effect. And I want to give you an opportunity to address that.
Well, if that cudgel was as significant as people think it is, then I wouldn't be in office. It's that simple. And the fact of the matter is I've now faced, my first campaign for office. I faced the 26-year, 13-term incumbent self-described chief homophobe of Virginia, and we won by nearly 8 points then. 2019, I was reelected with almost 12-point margin. And this year, it looks like I'll be reelected by a little bit more than 8.5 percentage points, which is, even better than my first run in the last gubernatorial election that we've had in Virginia. So, basically to me, it's a lot of static and noise, as opposed to when I'm going door to door here in the 13th district and I'm knocking doors in Haymarket and Gainesville. The first thing I'm talking about is my bill, HB 1030 last year, that bans above-ground transmission lines along the I-66 corridor between Gainesville and Haymarket for the next 10 years in order to protect local property values as well as the local environment. And when I'm talking in Manassas Park, I'm talking about how I voted for HB 1414 from the Speaker of the House, which will eventually lead to us having future night and weekend VRE service along the Manassas line, which is huge. And, we've now passed 8 of my bills to feed hungry kids in schools. And, because of our successful advocacy to the federal government from here in Virginia, all school breakfast and all school lunch is free for all students in this entire school year, which is also really good for Virginia families. So to me, it's very important that people recognize that we're doing the quality of life issues that we're doing the work on the quality of life issues that they elected us to do in the first place while working to make Virginia more inclusive, which is why in the Virginia General Assembly, we've passed about 24 pro-LGBTQ pieces of legislation in the last 2 years with our Democratic majority. And even if we have, split government in the General Assembly next year with a 52-48 or if we're lucky, a 51-49 Republican majority this year, upcoming year in the House of Delegates, while we still have a Democratic state Senate, we're going to have to understand that we're going to probably be at a stasis on, a lot of LGBTQ issues. So number one, it's really important that we get the bills passed that we did. And at the same time, that we have to find common ground going forward.
Yeah. I want to ask you about that because, as you say, the legislation that you've championed happened with a Democratic assembly, but Democrats are now going to be in the minority in the House of Delegates. Do you see Republican leadership rolling back any of the measures that Democrats have made a priority in recent years?
They can try, but then that will just die in the state Senate.
Given that the election flipped control, not just of the governor's office, but in down ballot races as well, was this election a rejection of Democratic priorities in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
No, no, it was not. And the reason I say that is if you look historically here in Virginia, it just, basically since before I was born, the party that's been out of control, basically the party that's been in control of the White House has then lost the subsequent election for Virginia governor, with the exception of 2013. And a large part of that was the Republicans nominated someone who was so extreme to the right wing that, he was able to narrowly lose that election. And when you just look at this election, the incoming governor-elect, Glenn Youngkin, he will likely, by the time Fairfax County's mail-in ballots that were postmarked by Tuesday of this past week and were received by the local offices of election by Friday, yesterday, basically what that'll mean is that, his winning percentage will probably be below 50.7%. And that's the lowest number that any Republican governor has had since they've ever been elected in Virginia. Actually, very few Republican governors have actually been elected in Virginia. It's only been, I think, about 7 or so since Reconstruction anyway. So, the fact of the matter is this, politics in Virginia is a pendulum. And typically speaking, when Republican governors win elections, whether it was Bob McDonnell in 2009, whether it was Jim Gilmore in 1997, George Allen in 1993, they tend to win by double digits. So the fact that this was a single digit margin is actually part and parcel, I think, to the fact that we've had so much infrastructure development for Democratic volunteers, for Democratic candidates during the last 4 years, that we were able to minimize our losses and even at the statewide level, keep all the statewide races within 2.5 points and actually even less than that and a couple of cases. So actually, all 3 cases less than 2.5 points. So, the fact of the matter is, would Democrats prefer to still have won and still have control of the House of Delegates? Of course we would. Of course we would. At the same time, we also recognize that this is the natural swing of things, and that if you're a Democrat, my message to you is stop being despondent, brush yourself off. There's always another election in Virginia. We love elections so much in Virginia. We have one every year. So just get ready for the next one.
Every single year. Well, yep, I do want to ask you, though, as you brought up Governor-elect Youngkin, he campaigned heavily on parental rights in the state's public school system. I know that that feeding children in Virginia is a big part of your platform. I'm wondering, though, he took the question of parental rights and education in a very different direction. How are these types of issues shaping politics in your state?
Well, I mean, for the incoming majority for the House of Delegates, they've clearly said that they want to prioritize it. At the same time, whatever issues regarding education that they decide to prioritize, they're going to have to choose a path. Either one, they're going to have to find common ground with our Democratic majority in the state Senate in order to have something that we can all agree on. Or second, they're just going to, put out partisan bills that are meant to die so that they can get Democrats on record for voting on X, Y, or Z in the way that they don't like, so they have messaging talking points going into the next election. And I think that the people of Virginia would much prefer that we actually have, their legislators spending time on finding common ground and spending time actually getting stuff done, as opposed to having the partisanship that, people just really don't like seeing. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't really matter what party's ever in control. What people don't like seeing is dysfunction in government. And what they do like seeing in Virginia was back, when Governing Magazine was around, we were, named the best managed state in the union, for example. And right now, Virginia is still ranked for the second time in a row, the best state for business, while at the same time, we've improved our ratings from being at the very bottom of Oxfam's list for best state for workers to now being in the top half. And so we want to even continue making that rise even further. So fact of the matter is, we've got a lot of issues that we can work in common on that don't have to be partisan. For example, along with my school meals bills, one of my legislative focuses in the upcoming session is going to be about court-appointed our guardians, so guardians ad litem, for example. And because, we have some significant shortfalls and oversight problems that we're having with that system right now. And I'm going to be asking people to come together and see if we can get 100-0 vote on some of these things out of the House of Delegates so that we can have good, positive change that will quite literally save lives and keep families together.
A message of bipartisanship coming off of that election. Delegate Danica Roem, congratulations on your electoral victory, and thank you for joining to share your perspectives.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's been great to see you.